now from Wasilla, Alaska, former Alaska governor and vice presidential nominee and now Fox News contributor, Governor Sarah Palin. Welcome, Governor. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Liz. How are you both?
There are a couple of us here. I know. We've got different voices, but
yes.
we'll see how well you do deciphering between the two of us. The president getting a lot of heat for the economy, of course, and that comes with the job creation that a lot of people feel they're not seeing. But what would be the number one thing to really spur job creation? Not 2, 3, but the first thing to do to spur job creation from where you sit and from what you've thought about?
He's got to incentivize the job creators. He has got to assure these tax increases that we're looking at hitting us in about 18 weeks are not going to happen. That will do wonders for the psyche of American business owners, those of us who are a bit hesitant because of the uncertainty, not knowing what is going to actually hit us come January 1st with the Bush tax cuts expiring. He's got to send that message that he understands now that increasing taxes on the job creators is not the answer.
So, Governor, besides taxes, to Liz's point, what else do you think would get job growth going again in this country? I mean, the president is doing a lot of stimulus spending. What do you think?
Oh, he's got to quit that stimulus spending. He's growing debt. It's amazing to me that now it's forgivable that, I don't think he's ever run a business. I don't think he's ever had to make payroll. I don't think he personally has ever had to balance a budget within a business. So that's forgivable and acceptable. But what's accepted and expected, though, is that he would hire a team of experts who have done those things and understand the free market principles that have to be applied to get our economy back on the right track. And one of the foundational aspects of that is not to grow more debt. Our debt service, just addressing that, is going to eat our lunch here in the future. So fundamentally, the things that Barack Obama believes in are absolutely the wrong things for our economy at this time. And he's had nearly 2 years to see if his policies will work, and they're not working.
Well, Governor, going back to your first point, that you feel that if we did not sunset, I'm assuming that's what you meant by tax cuts, did not sunset the Bush tax cuts for everyone, because the president has said he will keep them in place for the middle class. But if we didn't sunset them for that upper echelon and Congress got that through, then would you, and as a suggestion for that, be prepared to deal with the deficit impact and the consequences of that?
Well, yeah, because the deficit is growing because we're spending too much money and we're monetizing debt. We're printing money out of thin air. It's not a matter of having to take more from the job creators, from the producers, increasing taxes to address that deficit spending and our debt. A lot of this has to do with the overspending that we're seeing coming out of Congress and the White House.
But then to follow up, what would have to be done to pay for the not sunsetting, keeping those tax cuts in place?
Because if we cut these taxes, if we allow the taxes to remain as Bush had implemented them in 01 and 03, then we will start producing more as a nation. If we reduce our corporate tax rate so that we are competitively internationally, if we are more competitive, then our nation finally will be able to be more industrious and we will be able to produce more, and that will generate more revenue. Let me explain really quickly what the thinking would be on a local level, say a local level of government. When I was a city manager, what we did was we did reduce taxes one after another, from personal property taxes to real property tax mill levies to business license renewal fees, all those things. We cut those taxes because we knew that businesses would be able to come into our locale, they would come into our city, they would be able to grow and prosper and produce more, and then that ultimately does, it does more revenue generated even for government. On a local level it works. I don't know why President Obama doesn't understand why it wouldn't work on a national level.
Governor, you're raising an interesting point here. I think that the CBO has estimated that the tax cuts for the upper brackets would basically, if you sunset them, that would basically amount to, I think, $40 billion. That's all that's spent. That's all that would come into the federal coffers when, pork is what, $27 billion a year, and that $40 billion doesn't even cover the interest on the debt. So really, why take that money out of the pockets of people who could create jobs?
That's exactly right. The only way that some of that uncertainty will be addressed, and the only way that that businesses will think that, okay, we're safe now, we can get out there and we can start creating more jobs and hiring more people and get this economy rolling along, is to have faith in the federal government that they understand that no, punishing the job creators and taking more from them and then redistributing that money according to some politicians' priorities is not the answer. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to take that money out of the market.
You know, looking at some of the numbers, the inclination lately is to really beat up on the administration, saying things just aren't good. We may be seeing a double dip. There's so many economists with so many opinions on this that it almost makes your head spin. But you look at some of the numbers here. Since the president took office in February of 2009, profits up 34%. Corporate profits I'm talking about specifically, those are up 34%. The Dow Jones Industrials have recovered 27%. I mean, of course, we all remember we were in the 6,000 mark. Now we're at 10,009 for the Dow Jones Industrials. And a lot of Americans have actually seen their 401ks come back and their 529s, their college savings plans come back. Do you give credit where credit is due for the stabilization of what's been happening here at least?
Well, those whose 401ks are rebounding, hey, you're blessed. Be thankful, because there are a whole lot of us who aren't seeing that rebound in our 401s. But listen, let's look at some other real-life numbers. 4.4 million people on welfare right now. That's a 20% increase during this recession. Food stamp recipients, 80% increase. Home sales, about a 12%, the slowest rate of growth in home sales ever on record. Those real life numbers for those mom and pops, those of us who are here on the front lines, just kind of trying to make do, if you will, we're seeing those type of numbers, and we're saying, yeah, we'll give credit where credit is due. Once the policies are put in place that allows the free market to start thriving and prospering again, to allow the job creators to do what they do best.
So, Governor, what you're advocating is smaller government. You're citing, I think, figures from that USA Today story. Now, Governor, I want to ask you, a lot of people at the Glenn Beck rally were basically saying the same thing that you're just saying right now. Why do you think the president is saying that he did not watch the Glenn Beck rally?
It's really unfortunate that he didn't, because the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who traveled there from all over the country, it was inspiring, beautiful from beginning to end. It was nothing but good and patriotic for our country. The belief there, I think, that was shared collectively, it was all based on time-tested truths, that government isn't the answer, but that we as individuals contributing more positively to our families, to our communities, that's how our country is going to start recovering and being restored. It's a shame that President Obama was evidently too busy on vacation doing whatever he's been doing for the last 10 days, that he didn't even tune in, kind of get a taste for what it is, that there's a whole lot of people out there in the heartland of America thinking and feeling about what our government's doing to us right now.
Well, to be fair, he was doing some Katrina appearances, talking to people who have recovered in New Orleans, which has been a devastating story nonetheless. But smaller government, that was a real focus, I believe, if I'm correct, of